Just in the last couple of days, it is really starting to feel like fall out, and it is making the horses a bit extra frisky.
Buddy. Let's go, Stewie. Ah! Monster Man!
This is by far my most favorite time of the year. It gets a little bit cooler in the mornings and evenings, and then during the day it still feels like summer out. I've noticed we've had a lot of new subscribers lately, so I thought today would be the perfect day to kind of explain why I have so many horses, what some of their quirks are, and why a lot of them will never be leaving. Probably the most important animal around here is Tiny. She makes sure everything runs smoothly and keeps me on track throughout the day.
Hey, Jenny!
Nigel is my ancient miniature pony stallion. He pretty much gets to do whatever he wants.
Nigel!
He is a pretty cool dude, and he is the oldest horse on the property.
For your poops.
It's for your poops. Lately, I've been getting pulled away from the barn for a pretty important reason, which I'm hoping to be able to share with you guys very soon. I've got to hurry back for another important meeting, and then I guess we'll catch up tomorrow.
Girls.
Right now, I currently have 13 horses. The youngest horse on the property is Scarlet. She just turned 3 in July. She is one I picked up for only $25 at an auction here in Montana. She is a reservation horse. Right when I was starting my YouTube channel, I did a whole series when I halter broke her, so that is kind of nice to go back on every once in a while and see how far she's come. She's gotten so much bigger than I had ever anticipated, and most recently she's been helping Prim get a little bit more manners. Prim cut her leg a few days ago, and I've been using some target training to help her stand still and let me doctor it every morning and night. So much easier than haltering her and bringing her into the barn. It's pretty interesting how much Scarlet has been helping Prim, who is twice her age. I used treats a lot with Scarlet when she finally accepted taking them. It did help reduce her fear threshold, and now it's proving to be quite helpful when I'm working with Prim. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know that recently I did breed Prim. Over the last couple of years, every spring when I go to start her, she has had some really aggressive heat cycles where she throws herself against the fences and the walls. She was in a stall for a long time. She had multiple checks from the vet. We tried a lot of different supplements and also hormone replacement, but nothing seemed to really help her. Originally, I bought Prim to rehab and then rehome, but with the problem she's been having around her heat cycles, I just don't feel good enough sending her on to another person. Unless I'm rehoming a young horse to another trainer, I really like to make sure they're started under saddle and going around pretty well before I find them a new home. Since there are so many horses that need home, I am really against breeding horses kind of willy-nilly. I thought about it for a few years before I decided to breed her, but now that it's done, I've noticed a significant change in her attitude and happiness in general. She's still a little bit aggressive towards the other horses, but these two girls have become fast friends over the last month. In the past, I've worked for some breeding farms and managed some stallions, but Prim's foal will be the first one that I have ever made for myself. So that is a really exciting thing that's coming in the spring. I used to buy, rehab, and rehome a lot of horses every year, and that is something that can burn you out very quickly. When I was looking for a way to do the most good without having to continually buy and sell horses, the one thing that
Yes.
I really thought would make a difference was starting a YouTube channel. Since starting my channel, I've only rehabbed about 1 to 2 horses a year. While sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough to help the horses, I'm always getting emails and letters from you guys saying how much some of the information that I share has helped your horses. The most recent rescue type horse that I have purchased has been Pearl. The last couple of months she has improved in leaps and bounds, but here recently she's been having a little bit of trouble. The last video I had posted, she was running around with Frisco. They were out in the pasture, and that really took a toll on her old body. A lot of times when you get these old neglected horses feeling better, they don't realize that they need to slow it down a little bit. After her adventures, Pearl did have a nosebleed, so I've been keeping a very close eye on her. This girl is 27 years old and she does have a lot going on. Recently, she's been laying down a lot more in her stall. Some mornings she's a little bit hard to get up, and today it looks like she's not having a very good day. One of the big things that we tested and are treating Pearl for is PPID. I think out of all of the medications she's on, that one has probably done the most good for her overall.
Pearl.
While it did take a little bit longer for Frisco to warm up to Pearl than I had expected,
Alright,
these
girl.
two are getting
You're
along
okay.
like peas and carrots now. They get turned out through this stall into a little pasture for the morning to graze. It looks like it's heating up a little bit faster this morning and they are ready for their breakfast. I've got the fan on in the barn and these two just like having a little snooze after they graze for about an hour in the morning. Every once in a while, I'll see a comment about how I am a horse hoarder, and while that is not true, I definitely think I still have a saddle problem. This time of year, I like to clean out my trailer and tack room and get an idea of just how much tack
Frisco
I've
Bill.
accumulated over the year.
Pony.
Frisco looks like he's ready for his special mash, so I better hurry up and get their pens clean so they can go back into their own runs. A lot of times I don't take the comment section too serious, especially when it's something I know is not true. While I do have quite a few more horses than the normal person has, I do not think that it is out of control. This year in particular, I have exercised a great amount of restraint. I'm pretty transparent on this channel. Some seasons the place does not look great, especially when there's mud or when it's snowing constantly. This time of year we've had an influx of bugs, which usually doesn't happen, but the rainy weather is making them hatch out a lot more than they typically do. All of the horses are provided with adequate hay and fresh, clean water to drink. This time of year, I am really bumping up the amount of hay that Frisco and Pearl is getting so that they can prepare for the winter. It does create a little bit of extra work for me because there is a lot of waste that I have to clean up. If you guys have been watching for a while, you know that I did hurt my neck pretty bad this winter. It's still getting better and I am hesitant to ride. But all of the daily chores have certainly been helping me get out and make sure that I stay in shape while I'm recovering. Some of the oldest horses that I have on the property do need their own personal space. While Pearl and Frisco do get turned out together, they do have their own stall with an attached run. It's nice when these senior horses can have friends, and the only horse on the property that I am not quite happy with their situation at the moment is Nigel.
Nigel.
Finding the perfect buddy for Nigel has proven to be almost impossible. He requires a very specific nutritional program along with his medications. I've purchased multiple friends for him in the past and none of them have worked out.
Hey, Goosey.
In addition to the very old horses that I have on the property that will never leave, there are a handful of horses that are here because of training issues. Goose had gone through multiple trainers that couldn't even get him halter broke before I bought him at the sale. Another one that came barely broke was Studman. In addition to his training troubles, this guy is also pretty hard to manage because he has some abnormalities in his feet.
Hey, buddy.
Both of these boys also have metabolic issues that need to be managed.
Hey. Hey.
With all the moisture around here lately, it looks like the little tiny no-see-ums are finally out, and these drive the horses nuts. A lot of times I show some pretty boring stuff that goes on around here, but somehow people still think that I neglect these horses. If anything, Goose, Studman, and Stewie are too heavy right now. These boys go out on the pasture during the summertime for around 12 hours. I would love to have some kind of track system for these metabolically sensitive horses, but that is something that's going to have to wait until I have my own property. With the grass now pretty crispy, these boys are getting fed more hay and will continue to do so into the fall and winter. Another gelding that's here that I originally purchased just because he was really cheap and seemed to be needing a soft place to land is Ziggy. He is a 21-year-old Arabian, and I actually decided to keep him. He had a lot of dental issues when I bought him. Since the auction, he has had 2 different teeth pulled, and he does require a dental adjustment or checkup every 6 months. He is one that took a long time to settle in and make friends, and I think these 2 girls are the perfect match for him. As soon as older horses start requiring a significant amount of extra care, it is much harder to find them a proper home. So for that reason, Ziggy will stay here for the rest of his life. I showed this a little bit earlier in the video, but I recently found and purchased this really sweet manure spreader. This is something that I have wanted for a very long time. They don't make them very sturdy anymore, and when I saw this one on Craigslist, I just had to jump and buy it. This is wheel driven, so I can pull it behind the 4-wheeler or the gator or a truck. This one is 20 years old and it practically looks brand new. You guys know I love a good deal, and I paid less than a third retail price for this. There's a lot of fresh bedding that I need to turn and compost, but most of it I'll be able to spread this fall, so that should really help the grass grow next year. I am pretty involved in the rescue world, even though I am not a rescue. It does get under my skin a little bit when someone thinks that I'm hoarding these horses. In my experience, one of the first things that start to go downhill when you have too many horses is the manure management. I compost all my manure and use it to fertilize the fields. The stalls get cleaned out once a day. The dry lots get drug every couple of days. In the winter, it is a little bit tricky, so I do have to scrape the pens every spring. Some days it looks worse than others, but this is a pretty typical setup for most people that are taking care of horses in this kind of situation. We have had an explosion of bugs in general here in the last week or so. I've gotten a few comments asking what I use for fly spray, and I actually have a special concoction that I mix up. Personally, I like to put some concentrated laser sheen in, and then I do like to use the Repel X PE. Most fly sprays that are out there for horses are going to be permethrin based, and that is very toxic to cats. They can't metabolize the chemicals, and it gives them a lot of neurological problems if it gets on their skin or they lick it. With Tiny being an integral part with what goes on around here, I want to make sure I keep her as safe as possible. Even though I am trying to heal my neck still, I do get quite a few comments pretty much all the time asking why I don't ride these horses or work them. For the type of horses that stay here permanently, they do have some significant issues that would make them inappropriate for most horse owners. And I think it is completely fine to have a horse as a pet as long as they're being taken care of appropriately. You can also train a horse without getting them out of their pen or riding them. There's a lot of stuff that goes on around here that is relatively boring to watch, so I don't ever make videos about it. Something as simple as putting fly spray on the horses can be a really good opportunity for training, especially ones that may have a negative association with humans and doing quote unquote real training. There are lots of different ways to train horses, and typically I would catch all these horses up, groom them, fly spray them, let them stand tied for a while. Here recently I've been dipping my toes into the Liberty world. It has been a little bit overwhelming because everybody has a different way of doing things. Since there are really no rules when you're training horses, I have started doing a few more things at Liberty that typically I would be catching the horses and bringing them into the barn for. I have always done this, but I have been making a conscious effort to do it more often. I set out to do a series on Liberty skills, and I very quickly found out that even starting off very basically, all of the information can be really hard to sift through. I do want to make sure I have a pretty solid grasp on all of the basics before I put anything out for you guys. As I mentioned earlier, I also have some pretty exciting things coming up that have been taking up a lot of my time. At this point, I've basically sacrificed a lot of my summer to work on one really big project. While it may not look like I'm doing very much here, this low stress way of handling these horses, especially the ones that have had real problems in the past, has caused a few of them to really improve. I like to think about it as training for their brain. Eventually, the other stuff will fall into place. I think in particular, Studman and Goose have really benefited from this type of training this summer. Big Gus, on the other hand, is still very suspicious about what I've been doing. It can be tricky getting anything done with the boys because there are a few that are not scared of anything. Stewie is very outgoing, and Little Gus is probably the next in line. Little Gus was probably the most aggressive, angry horse when I bought him at auction. It is a little bit wild to look back and see how scared and angry he was compared to today. Both him and Stewie are borderline obnoxious when I come out into the pen and try and work with the other horses. Little Gus is the one that went through 4 or 5 homes in a year before I bought him. He was sold as a 10-year-old, and he did have a lot of trouble with his teeth recently. After doing radiographs, we found he's probably now closer to maybe 18 or 19. He had some really serious bucking issues, and he's one, if you get aggressive with him, he will get downright nasty. With him being an older grade horse with some significant issues, he is not one that I would ever think about rehoming. Even though he did have a lot of trouble being ridden when I very first bought him, he's one that I actually feel very comfortable hopping on even after all this time off. He's fun to just tool around bareback. I do ride him in just a halter or an Indian bridle sometimes. His attitude has made a complete 180 since I bought him, and he is one of my more favorite little horses to hang out with. I've always thought that he is probably a registered quarter horse that had his papers taken away from him throughout the auction process. Recently, I did send his DNA in to the AQHA to see if he was possibly registered before and they have his information on file. I'm not super hopeful about it, but it would be really cool if he came back as registered and I can find out exactly who he is. One of the grade horses I have that I do know a lot of information about is Big Gus. I bought him as an unstarted 3-year-old from his breeder. He can be a little bit quirky. He is afraid of getting in trouble. I'm not sure if maybe he had some kind of wreck when he was younger, but he was headed to the loose pen and I decided to buy him sight unseen. He does have PSSM too, and that is why I will never sell him. It can be very tricky working with 7 horses at once, but it is an excellent exercise in patience. One of the most basic principles in Liberty training is the draw. This is something that all of my horses learn to do pretty early on when I get them. It's important to me that they're interested in what we're doing, and this is one of the things that the very fractious horses have to learn in order to be successful here. Even though I have had Goose for quite a number of years, he has never really warmed up to people. He is one that has always been extremely afraid to make any mistakes. Right now, he is best buds with Whiplash and Studman, who are number 1 and 2 in this herd, so I think that has helped him get a little bit more confident about things. I'm really happy all of these boys are getting along together. It is really nice when I can have a few groups of horses that like to play and run around. I have had a few comments about how Ziggy looks unhappy, but I think this is probably the most calm and chill he's ever been.
Like Lucy.
Last summer, Ziggy spent some time with the boys, but I never saw him run and play like he does with these 2 girls. Sometimes he doesn't quite understand what they're doing, but a lot of times he joins in, and he is definitely not pacing back and forth along the fence as much as he was last year.
Good boys. Let's go, Bill. Ready to come in, buddy?
Another horse that is never going to leave here for obvious reasons is Frisco
Nigel.
Bill. He is 30 years old and I have owned him for the majority of his life. He's retired now. I think the last time I rode him was last year. He's been having a little bit of trouble, but for the most part he is in pretty good health.
Escape, are you, girl? Okay. Come on, girl. Come on, old girl. Oops.
Both Frisco and Pearl are registered quarter horses, so I do know exactly how old they are. It is not a guess. Frisco is 30 years old and Pearl is definitely 27. Even though Frisco is older than Pearl, Pearl has significantly more problems. She's a little bit extra stiff today, and I did notice that she's just feeling a little bit down overall. Since I got her, she does look so much better body condition wise, but I think it's important to know that she still does have days that are not quite great. Sometimes the rescue type horses do not go exactly as planned. Every now and then I'll see Skeletor's bawl and get really upset. It has been about a year since I had to euthanize him, and he was a really tough one for me. These at-risk horses are rarely ever as straightforward as it seems, and I do think it's important to share everything, even if it is hard. Today I was feeling especially down about Skeletor because there have been a few signs that Pearl is taking a little bit of a downward turn. Recently, I've noticed that she has just not been eating as she has in the past. She'll take a few bites of her senior feed and then nibble on her hay, but she just doesn't have the appetite she used to. While I do see her every single day for multiple hours of the day, I was thinking that there was something I was missing. When she stops eating in the morning, I decided to go and check her feed pan, and today I noticed that there were a few little spots of blood in her food. A rehab like Pearl's does not happen without the help of a really good veterinarian. We have been monitoring her blood work, and she's always had a lower platelet count. This girl also has melanomas, which have moved throughout her body. I was really hopeful that the last nosebleed I saw was very minor and due to her running around, but I'm starting to think she has something else going on. With how bright and happy she has been lately, this is really a surprise, and I wasn't expecting her nosebleed to be something serious. Pearl just saw the vet for her dental, but I do think this warrants another appointment. I'm still hopeful that this is just a temporary setback and we'll be able to treat it in some way. Dealing with at-risk horses can be extremely satisfying. It has a way of making you realize that it's more important to live in the moment than stew on the past or worry about the future. While there are some really exciting things on the horizon, this summer in particular, I've been taking a lot more time to just go with the flow and enjoy the horses as they are in this moment. You okay, girl? Some days the negative comments do make me want to never post another video on YouTube. I think the positive benefits far outweigh the negative ones. I have been working with at-risk horses for a very long time, and while I do think there is always something new to learn, one thing I do know is that when a horse steps off of the trailer and onto this property, they will receive the highest level of care that I can possibly provide them. Depending on how things are going, some days can be a little bit overwhelming, but I do have a pretty good handle on the amount of horses that I can and cannot properly take care of. I'm really grateful for everyone that follows along through the ups and downs and understands what exactly it is I do here. I have a really big announcement that I'm going to make on the next video, so if you're not already subscribed, make sure to do that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.